Hello everyone. I had already posted a video on the proposed new UK points-based system, which is going to be effective from 2021 January. And on 19 February, UK Home Office released a policy statement for the points-based system. So in the policy statement, they had given basically a lot more details with regards to how many points you need, what are the qualifications, basically how you can get the points-based system, how you can get a new visa in the points-based system. It was very clear, but it still lacked a few details. But it was the first official announcement with a lot more details on the points-based system. Now, it took me a couple of weeks to digest the whole information because it wasn't just this policy based statement. They were actually basing it on a couple of documents from the MAC, the Migration Advisory Committee. The MAC had published previously a salary thresholds document, which is almost a 300-page document, in January, and they had also published a shortage occupancy list, which is a 398-page document. So we needed to refer back to these documents because there were a lot of explanations that had been given in these two documents. It's quite big and quite detailed. So I had to actually digest that information a little bit because to make that video, it wasn't enough to just read that policy statement. So it took me a while to do that. And based on all that information, I've prepared an Excel sheet as well. I've prepared some examples of the policy-based statement of the points-based system. So let's go ahead and start explaining what the new points-based system is going to look like. So, like before, I have created, I'm going to share my desktop and I'm going to explain the policy-based statement and also the Excel file that I've created. And I'll be talking as we go along. So, this is the Home Office website where they have given the policy-based statement on the 19th of February. And they basically explain the background with regards to why they are bringing the points-based system, why they are reintroducing the simplified visa process, which we have already talked about in some of our previous examples. So we'll skip to the actual part. This is where they kind of start talking about how they arrived at this points-based system details. So they are here referring to the Migration Advisory Committee, where they've published their report on salary thresholds and also on the shortage occupancy list. Now, if you really want to actually go and have a look at it, I'll give you the links for both those documents. This is the salary thresholds points-based system document, which is a 278-page document. Most of the information I've already digested in the Excel file that I'm going to share with you. And also there is a shortage occupancy list that the Migration Advisory Committee has done. It's a full review. It's again, it's quite a long document. It's about 398-page document. If you really want to have a look at it, you don't need to go through the whole thing because it's the rationale that they have explained in most pages. So the key pages is from 337, where if you look at the list that they have produced, that's the recommendation that they have produced, where they've come out with the SOL, or what they call as the shortage occupancy list. So I'll give links to both these documents, and again, you don't need to go through them, but if you're going to go through the shortage occupancy list document, you can probably just jump straight to the page number 337. So now let's jump back to the policy statement. In the policy statement, after explaining the rationale, after explaining the background, they've straight jumped you can actually jump to point number 6, which is where they are starting to explain what the system is going to look like. Now, when I made the video in Tamil and also when I looked at this page first, a lot of people had a misunderstanding on this. So we'll see what the misunderstanding is. Now, these are the characteristics, or these are the points system that they have explained. Now, you need to have a job offer by an approved sponsor. So this is also there even today. The difference is that they are not going to give you the visa, you're going to get the visa, but you still need a job offer from an approved sponsor. So this was not there earlier when we had a points-based system. So this is a little bit different. We'll talk about it later in the end of the video. And once a sponsor or once a UK employer is giving you a job offer, kind of the next point is almost redundant, but it's still important. They are saying the job needs to be at an appropriate skill level. Now, the reason this is important is because they need to acknowledge the fact that this job offer is at a skill level that is actually approved by the Home Office. So, for example, if somebody is working in a supermarket in the till, even though it's a difficult job, it's not something that has an appropriate skill level. Anybody without having proper education or without having any qualification, they can basically do that job. It requires a lot of physical effort, but it doesn't require a skill level. So there are a lot of jobs like that which do not require a skill level. For example, driving a Uber taxi or something like that. You can't give a job offer for that, and you can't expect to get a visa for that because it's not at an appropriate skill level. So I'm assuming that when somebody gets a job in UK and an employer is willing to give them a job, they would have considered the fact that the job is at an appropriate skill level. So these kind of go hand in hand. So there's 20 points for the job itself and 20 points for making sure the Home Office acknowledges that that job is at an appropriate skill level. So we get 40 points for that. English language requirement has always been mandatory, even for bringing in people like NHS nurses, for example. I made a video on that. So they made it a little bit less stricter here in the points-based system. They say speak English at a required level. So what this means is that, like in NHS, for example, they need to do IELTS and they need to prove their English language proficiency a little bit more. But here, the English language requirements are similar to before. If you can prove that your degree was taught at English, and if you can prove in other ways that you have fluency in English, I think that should be sufficient. So these three characteristics are non-tradable, which means they are mandatory. You need to have a job offer, it needs to be at an appropriate skill level, and you need to be able to speak English. These are mandatory, and once you complete this, you get 50 points. So it's almost a given that when you come to this level and you get a job offer, it's almost a given that you'll get 50 points. Now here's when it becomes more tricky, and here's where people have misunderstood this requirement, because it says that you need to have a salary of between this range to gain further points before we go into the last 3 points. So if you don't have a PhD, or if you are not in the shortage occupancy list, for example, you need to have a minimum salary of 20,480 pounds. You get 0 points for that, but that's the minimum requirement to be able to even qualify. But that is tradable, obviously, if you're one of the shortage occupancy list. And to gain any points out of your salary, then you need to have 23,000 to 25,000. About 25,600 is when you get 20,000 points. 20 points. Now, a lot of people have understood this to be the salary of the job offer that you're going to get in UK. Now, this is not true, because they have actually made it quite clear in some of the lines that you should have earned the salary or be earning the salary in your previous job. They haven't clearly specified the previous job, but they've made it very clear that you need to be earning this salary currently to be able to qualify. So this is your existing salary or your current salary. You should be earning this much salary already to be able to qualify or to be able to get these points. So a lot of people had, in fact, when I made the video in Tamil, a lot of people had come back with questions saying that this is the job offer. Why are you talking about our current salary? Because that doesn't matter. That matters because this is talking about your current salary. Now here, before we go into the salary in detail, if you are not getting those salaries, even after we talk about salaries, you don't need to worry if you are in the shortage occupancy list. For example, NHS nurses are still classified in the shortage occupancy list, which we just saw, the shortage occupancy list document. So Migration Advisory Committee has already designated them as a shortage occupancy, which means that you'll automatically get the 20 points. So once you have a job offer and you can speak English, you automatically get the 70 points and you qualify for the visa. So it's a very straightforward process for people in the shortage occupancy list. Again, if people are having a PhD, then a normal PhD gets you 10 points, which means that if you are in this range, for example, you're getting a salary in this specific range, then you can get 10 points out of this and 10 points out of your PhD. I'm assuming when we go into the further details, if you have a PhD, I'm assuming that you will be able to probably get a little bit more than the 23,000. It's only a couple of thousand more. And especially for people who've done PhD, they'll probably be earning more than that. So it's kind of irrelevant that you have a PhD and you are going to be earning in that particular range. But again, that's the points-based system that they've introduced. For people who've done PhD in STEM subject, relevant to that job that they're doing, I think this is one of the upcoming topics or upcoming subjects where they need probably more people. So they've given a special criteria for it where they're going to give 20 points for it. So if you get a job offer and you've done a PhD in STEM subject, then you automatically qualify, you get 70 points. So for people who are not in NHS or not in those shortage occupancy lists and not done PhDs, the salary now matters. So this is where we'll start to go through the Excel file that I've created. Now for going through the Excel file, so let's look at the Excel file for a minute before we go into further explanation. So if we take the salary thresholds at face value, what they have released, for people who are earning in UK, especially in IT professionals, easily they'll be earning more than 25,600. People, especially in ICT, intra-company transfer, who come from a IT consulting organization, they would be earning much more than this, because this is like the minimum salary for IT professionals. So you'll definitely be earning more than this, and you'll automatically qualify if you're already earning inside UK. Your UK salary is expected to be more than this. The problem comes when we are talking about people from India who are applying and who are working in India and who are getting salary in Indian currency. So the equivalent, I'm just converting it based on today's exchange rate. The equivalent salary that you need to be earning, minimum salary that you need to be earning in India to qualify for this points-based system is about 19 lakhs to start with for the first range, 20,480. And even to get 10 points, you need to be earning close to about 21 lakhs 42,000, which is nearly 21.5 lakhs that you need to be earning. And to get the 20 points, if you're not one of those PhDs or MA or in the shortage occupancy list, for the maximum points that you need to earn to get the visa is about close to 24 lakhs at the exchange rate of 93. It's about close to 24 lakhs. Now, here is why the next point is going to be important. Now, what I did was I went back to the analysis of the points-based system that the same migration advisory committee had done in December 2009 or in 2009 when the tier 1 system, the previous points-based system was in place, or even for HSMP when the previous points-based system was in place. Now during that time, the migration advisory committee, what they had done was they had created what they called as a country income band. Now the country income band, what it clarified was that it understood the fact that not all countries have an equivalent economy to UK, and not all countries have the same currency options in terms of high earners or recognizing that it is a skilled income. So what they did was, recognizing the fact that their economy is different, their currency valuation is different, cost of living is different, they categorized countries into 5 income bands. And each country code, each income band had a income multiplier or a country multiplier. So for example, UK, US, France, Singapore, where the cost of living and the economy is almost similar to UK, they gave a multiplier as 1. It's almost the same. They still need to get that amount. But for they went on to further countries like Poland, Portugal, the country multiplier started increasing. So for India specifically, the country code was D and the country multiplier was 5.3. Now what does that mean in terms of the actual system? So I'm going to look at, for using the Migration Advisory Committee's 2009 document, I'm going to explain what happened in 2009 for you to better understand the new points-based system. So this was the criteria that they had set out on the left with regards to how much money you need to earn in your last 12 months salary to be able to get the Tier 1 visa or the HSMP visa. So again, as you can see, it starts from 16,000 pounds, it goes up to about 40,000 pounds where you can get the maximum points. Now, if we had assumed that the raw salary at that point of time in 2008 was about 82 rupees, if we had assumed the raw salary, then it would have been like, starting salary itself should have been 13 lakhs. And for getting the maximum points based on which you can qualify, it was around 32 lakhs, which is impractical about 14 years back. But using the India multiplier or using the band multiplier that they provided, the Indian corresponding salary that they published was that it was going to be lesser than the actual conversion from pounds to rupees straight. So which meant that if you get a salary of 2.4 lakhs, you started to get eligibility, and for about 6 lakh you got the maximum points. So when I came to UK, my salary was around 12 lakhs approximately, and if I had directly applied it, I wouldn't have got any points. But because of the band multiplier, I got the maximum 45 points, and I was able to come to UK. So what we are going to assume is that even for the new points-based system, they are still going to use some sort of a band multiplier. So let's look at an example. Also got a few examples of how this band multiplier will play out for the new points-based system. So if you look at it carefully, if no band multiplier exists, we've already seen this scenario where you need probably about 24 lakhs, or if India is put in a band multiplier of 1, they think India's economy is improved massively, then the band multiplier is going to be 1, which means that you're still looking at 24 lakhs to start with to get the maximum 20 points. If we are going to compare apples to apples, and if the UK government decides the Indian economy is the same, or comparatively UK economy and Indian economy have grown at the same rate, the exchange rates are remaining the same, and India gets the same band multiplier from 2009, for example, then you can clearly see that for the same salary range that we are talking about that they have released in their points-based system, using the exchange rate of today's exchange rate and using the band multiplier, you start to get qualification from about 3.6 lakhs. And when you get an annual salary of above 4.5 lakhs, you can qualify for the additional 20 points. This is where most of the Indian IT professionals will be able to easily qualify and get those additional 20 points, and all that they need would be a salary or would be a job offer from an approved UK sponsor, and also a job at a skill level. And in IT, most of the jobs will be considered skill level. And in a lot of other organizations, when they're offering you a job from UK, they're automatically going to be considered at a skill level. But again, the Home Office will do an appropriate evaluation. This is very important because this is assuming that India stays in band D. But anything could happen. India could move to band C or band B. So I've just given a simple example of what will happen if India moves to a different band. Even then, it becomes a lot more easier because you still don't need 24 lakhs. You're looking at about 10.3 lakhs for your maximum points. So this is to give an indication. This is with no certainty that this will happen, but I've gone through the Migration Advisory Committee's 2009 document, the 2020 documents, compared it, looked at the band multipliers that they published, and it makes a lot more sense that they will come up with a similar lot multiplier. Because if they're going to stick to no band multipliers, for example, very few people will get more than 24 lakhs in India, and which means that they will not be able to attract any talent from India, which goes against the whole purpose of bringing this new points-based system into play. So what I've done is I've created a blogspot, and I have given the link to the document or to the Excel file that I have used in this video, and I've given links to the YouTube videos as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this Excel file and this blogspot link with you in my description, so you can actually refer to it. You can look at the examples. I've given the points-based system equivalent examples as well. You can look at this Excel file on your own. I will give you the links to the blogspot and the Excel file in my description. So I said initially in the start of the video that what are the advantages and disadvantages compared to the current tier 2 versus the new points-based system, because it looks almost similar, right? You need to still get a job offer. How does it differ? Because we assumed earlier that the job offer would not be mandatory, because that's what the points-based system was earlier. Now, while it is true that job offer is mandatory, earlier in tier 2, the employer who was giving you the job offer needed to go through the sponsorship. They needed to have a sponsorship license in place, for which they needed to have spent money to get that license, and they needed to be in the approved list of sponsors with the license, and they needed to give you the sponsorship license. So basically the visa is sponsored by the employer, In the new points-based system, the employer doesn't need to go through any of the visa process. The visa process is entirely done by the individual. All the employer is giving you is a job offer, and with that job offer, you are going to get your visa. So it eliminates the need for all the paperwork that the employer needs to do. All that the employer would be doing is giving you a job offer. So it actually simplifies the process a lot. Also, when Tier 1 was in place, when HSMP was in place, a lot of people were coming into the country with the Tier 1 visa, with the HSMP visa, but they were finding it extremely difficult to find a job. And a lot of people I knew were getting high paid jobs in India had quit, come here to UK. They struggled for months and months together. People had actually been jobless in UK for 6 months and gone back to India because they couldn't find a job in UK, purely because there were so many people who had come from India to UK, and the market was flooded with people, whereas the jobs were very limited. It's a small country. The jobs were only limited, and there were a lot of people who were available for the same jobs, and people weren't getting enough jobs at that point of time. So I think they've considered that into account. Migration Advisory Committee have actually mentioned a few of those points. So they've considered all of these into account, and they've come up with this new system. So I think, in hindsight and in looking at the overall picture, this system is quite good. It's I wasn't expecting something like this. I think I'm comfortably pleased to say that the system is quite good. If they go with the income band multipliers, if they confirm the details of the income band multipliers, then I think it will be a lot more easier for Indians working in ICT in UK, as well as working in India in an Indian income, would be able to convert it into a PBS. That will give them the opportunity to get citizenship in this country, or ILR for that matter. So hopefully, I think I've explained all the questions from my video, all the questions regards to the new points-based system. Hopefully this has been clearer to you, useful to you. Now, if you know anyone who's been thinking about this points-based system, who's been thinking about the UK visa, please do share the video with them. Please do post your comments in this video. Your comments and your encouragement basically helped me to make more content like this, because it took a lot of time going through these documents, 300-page documents, and creating this Excel file to make this video. So I do take a lot of effort to make these videos. So please show your appreciation by posting some comments. It'd be much appreciated. Thank you so much. Until next time. Bye.